I'm not touching that total at 37.5 though. Although I get it, but it's just moved too far. 4:05 p.m. Eastern. Next up for us, we're in afternoon action now. Philadelphia Eagles 4-0, 2-0 on the road at the Los Angeles Rams 2-2, 0-1 at home. Londo, I'm with you, my guy. Let's get it. SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. Let's take a look at the line history here in this one and get rolling. Eagles, Rams. This is sitting right now with the Rams at home. It's +4. That's where it opened +4. It did move to 5. So it moved to 5 about 4 hours after it dropped, and then it went right back to 4. That's the only real movement. So it's pretty much exactly where it opened at this point. Let's move over to the total here for this one. The total in this one is sitting at 50.5. Seems pretty high for a Rams game. Opened up at 49.5 and then moved to 50.5. This is interesting. And look at this. Ron Crawford. Spreadsheet play of the day is in. It is the Rams +4.5. Thank you for sharing that with us, Ron. My guy. Copy and paste that right now. The line is moving in the Rams direction. Al Cervic says he's on the Rams blind. So Sky Dragon says, I don't really get the oversteam. I would be playing the under. Well, that's what I wanted to hear, DG. So, because that was my very first thought. Now, I'll need to talk it out first, and we'll see. So let's go. Let's go over to the cash flow for this spot. Get over here. We have 56% of the tickets and 66% of the cash on the Eagles, and the line is moving towards the Rams. We have 82% of the tickets and 87% of the cash on the over. So the Eagles have started the season 4-0. And they're getting a lot of negativity. 4-0, it's the first time they've had consecutive seasons 4-0 since 1992-93. There are only, 2 4-0 teams left. Eagles came in off the much tighter than expected 34-31 overtime win at home over the Commanders. Jalen Hurts was 25 of 37 for 319 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He also ran 9 times for 34 yards. A.J. Brown had a monster game. 14 catches for 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. Devonta Smith, 7 for 78. DeAndre Swift, 14 carries for 56 yards, touchdown, caught 4 for 23. Nicholas Morrow, 11 tackles and 3 sacks. It's pretty wild for those of you who've watched him for a long time because in his first 81 games in the NFL, he had 4 sacks. So he had 3 sacks on Sunday. The defense got pressure on Howell, 5 sacks, 9 quarterback hits, but it looked vulnerable. Washington was able to make big plays when they needed to. Commanders finished 4 of 5 in the red zone and were 8 of 17 on third down, 2 of 2 on fourth down. Their guard here, Cam Jurgens, suffered a foot injury. He's unlikely to be available this week. He was seen leaving in a walking boot. He's listed as week to week. So Jurgens was the one that had come in to replace Kelsey. And then Sua Opeta entered the game for Jurgens, and he's going to take over at right guard if Jurgens can't go. And it's Opeta's job to block Aaron Donald. So it's a really important thing to see if Jurgens is good or if you're going to trust Opeta to do the job. It's a very key position battle. The Eagles' injuries have been mounting. So what up, T-Mac? Nice to see you, man. So, it all started with Zach McPherson, tore his Achilles. He was the backup slot cornerback, special team star. So that was in the summer. Then season opener, they lose Nakobe Dean, foot injury. He's on the IR and still needs to sit out 2 more games before he can return. Then week 2 was the heartbreaker. Avonte Maddox gone for the season. They lose Bradbury and Reed Blankenship in that game. Now, Bradbury and Blankenship only missed 1 game. Then Justin Evans suffers the neck injury. Sidney Brown suffers the hamstring tweak. Both safeties were not there in Sunday's win over the Commanders. Isn't it noticeable now that this defense they're battling injuries. They just don't look as strong. They don't look as tough. Now, I don't want to fade the Eagles after they look bad. The Rams continue to impress. They come in off a 29-23 overtime victory at Indianapolis. They outgained them 467 to 329. They're up 23-0 in the third quarter before the Colts mounted the comeback. Stafford looks hurt. He's banged up. I don't know if you watched how banged up he is, how you could really trust him being good to go here. I'm sure he's going to play, but we know what he looks like when he's got no mobility. 27 to 40 for 319 yards, touchdown, and an interception. Puka Nacua continued his incredible start. 9 passes for 163 yards, 39 receptions, 501 yards through the first 4 games of any for any player in NFL history. First 4 games of any player in NFL history. So he is not being stopped right now. And then Tyler Higbee is getting open now because people are having to worry about Nacua. Higbee, 5 catches for 64 yards. Kyron Williams ran 25 times for 103 yards. He's rolling right now. So now you have Kyron Williams running and Ronnie Rivers right behind them. They're both looking very good. The defense shut out the Colts in the first half, but looked vulnerable in the second. They still held the Colts to just 3 of 10 on third down and 2 trips to the red zone. The Colts cashed them both. The red zone defense is a problem. And Alaric Jackson was inactive with the hamstring injury, and they need him back on this offensive line. Take it away for us here. Break it down for us here. Eagles, Rams. Troy, floor is yours.
I want to be on the Rams when I first started looking at this game, but I can't, like you said. I mean, the toughest part for me to get past right now is Stafford. What's his status like? How healthy is he going to be? Because we've seen this Eagles secondary specifically not looking like what we remember out of the Eagles from last year. I think that's everything's adding up for the Rams to be able to take advantage of it. They got Kupp coming back. I think Puka is an all-star receiver. The guy's stamina is off the charts. You can see this guy make 5 catches in 7 plays, and every catch looks the exact same intensity. This guy is really good. Now you add Kupp back to the lineup. It's just more to defend. It makes it harder on the secondary. But can Stafford deliver? That's my question right now. And the Eagles barely escape at home as huge favorites. Oh, man, it's just a tough spot. The Rams' strength is obviously their defensive line and ability to rush the passer, but with Aaron Donald leading the charge. But the Eagles, in theory, should be able to neutralize that with their running game, their ability to run the ball, which I still think they don't do enough. And I think they will as the season progresses, but we haven't seen that yet. Oh, man, this is a tough one for me because, some of these, I'm just confused a little bit at how, PFF is ranking a lot of these positional groups because they're ranked, they have some low rankings, especially on the defensive side. Coverage, 31st. Pass block is 30th, yet Stafford's pretty good and is able to pass out of the pocket. So it's just a little bit confusing to me still, but this fits the profile of a game I want to bet. At FanDuel, this game opened at 6. Some other public books, 6.5. I know Pinnacle opened it at 4. That leaves me with no sample to work with. So I looked in the database, and these lines that drop at FanDuel from 6 down to 4, 4.5. Home team is 6-2 ATS, 5-3 straight up on the money line. So that had me leaning towards the Rams heavily, but I just don't know because we don't know about Stafford.
And, you guys don't need to back me up in the chat when, Jack Cal says, I don't want to hear about what happened last week because I want cappers like Jack Cal who don't care about last week. That's how we make money is because of gamblers like Jack Cal who doesn't want to talk about how banged up Stafford looked last week. What's happening now with Ronnie Rivers stepping up to help Kyron Williams and things of this nature. But thank you for backing me up. But let him, say whatever he wants. The people who don't care about what happened last week don't realize how much it affects this week. And it's great. So I want him thinking exactly the way he is because that's how we get better numbers on games. Here, I want the Eagles after they look bad. The question is, do you want them this banged up? And then at this point, do we want Justin Evans back? Do we want Sidney Brown back? Because, God, with Maddox out now, Bradbury and Blankenship are doing such enormous amount of work. So, at this point, I think this total is too high. I just don't think that the Rams, one of the things about Puka and others and this Rams offense is they're moving the chains. They're moving the chains and they're keeping the opposition off the field. And when push comes to shove, we saw what the Colts did to them. And I think the Eagles are more than capable when push comes to shove in the most important spots to do the exact same thing. So at this point here, I don't want the Rams. I don't want the Rams after the Eagles look bad. I fear the Eagles enormously. And if you listen to people's sentiment about them right now, it's very negative. This is a very good football team that's dealing with injuries and playing sloppy and making some bad decisions. But there's certainly a team that I want to fade after they look good, not after they look bad. And they just look bad. And they're being hammered in the media right now with the way their defense looked.
And that's a good point, man. Both these teams barely escaped with a win. I mean, even, the Rams and the Eagles. Now, the Rams were a pick 'em. The Eagles were a massive favorite, and they're getting all this heat. I think that's a really good point, Jimmy. And I'm definitely not moving on the Rams at this point, based on what I'm hearing and based on how I perceive Stafford's health to be.
Yeah, he looked really banged up there. But the under is in play. I think the under is very, very much in play. I'm not sure if I move on it tonight, but I will be studying it very closely. Let's move on.